What up, y'all? I want to welcome y'all back to Humble City Real, the show where I talk about things that I like, things I don't like, things I know, things I think I know, and whatever else happened to cross my mind. But before we get further into the video, I'd like for y'all to go ahead and subscribe. Definitely, if you like what you see, subscribe, hit that bell notification, drop a like, drop a don't like, whichever one. I think I appreciate both. And if you like what you see in the video, go ahead and make sure you drop some comments, if you got questions or thoughts and ideas about the subject matter that you are about to see. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Race norming. All right, so speaking about race norming, more so in regards to the NFL. It's been a somewhat of a low subject over the last few months, but it's been picking up steam. I would say that overall it's been, for years, but as far as, that practice coming to light. So just to, give a little brief definition, you got race norming. Basically, it's the practice of adjusting test scores to account for race or ethnicity of a test taker. This type of tactic was implemented back in 1981, and then it was outlawed in 91. So there it is, race norming. So race norming could be used in a multiple ways, right? It can be used as far as, when it comes to job opportunities and stuff like that. Think somewhat like affirmative action at that particular times. Think of it like that somewhat. They play in together. Whereas it was believed that they would make it easier for a black person to get a job at a certain, location or whatnot. And then so therefore being unfair to the more qualified white counterpart. However, what was not discussed as far as within this tactic is that what affirmative action was intended to do was, of course, to just make it an equal playing field, equal opportunity. So what ends up happening, just briefly before we get to where we really want to talk about as far as with the NFL, with that, basically what you had was, say, whatever the job we're going to name, electric wiring company. And so electric wiring company, they're being faced with certain situations as they're looking at their overall equal opportunities, setting, the work environment. Oh, well, you might need some, it's looking like you're just hiring all white folks. And so what ends up happening is, highly qualified, African Americans would apply for said jobs, right? And so the employer would discriminate strictly on race. You've seen this within, housing community as far as housing discriminations, lending discrimination with the banks and loans. So they would deny that person based on their race. So when they came around with these different things, like, hey, you gotta have that token black guy, you gotta have a black person. What they would do, they would use these particular type of tests to disqualify the highly skilled black man, and would bring in what they would believe to be either non-qualifying black person or a black person that barely qualifies, right? So then bring him in, the one that's highly skilled and probably could have been either as just as equal to the same skill set as his white counterparts and or better. But they would not hire him. They would go for someone lower. So now what you end up doing, you bring him in. So whereas now if Jim wanted to bring his brother in, and now the employer tells Jim, hey, we can't bring your brother in because, we had to make it a little bit more colorful around here and we bring it in. So Jim looks at the new guy who's a black guy, and then he's like, he barely know how to do this. I told you my brother can do X, Y, Z, ABC, 1, 2, 3, he can do it all. And this guy barely can get past the first stage. And but Jim, we had to. So then now you build forth tension in those places during those particular times, as when this, when the affirmative action, all stuff start hitting. So that's part of what the race norm, that testing, like, a lot of jobs you apply for, they give you some type of test to take. And that's what they'll take those test scores and they will play with them as far as like, let's break down who, So in all in all, it's like, let's hire the less qualified person just to say that we got it. Therefore, if he does, if and we hired that person that was, highly skilled, and it's a fear of him possibly, taking over or taking someone's job. And that was part of the way the practice was. So therefore it's set in a place to where it's like, well, it's actually, biased in favor of the black person. So that was one of the reasons why they would say we want to keep it. But at any rate, it was outlawed because it's just not right. It's just, because of those hidden type parts of the practice. Now, let's switch over to where we get back to where we're into the NFL. So where it's nice talking about with neurological testing. It's not like unheard of to either experience and or know someone who experienced things in regard to medical issues, or as far as where it's some type of racial discrepancies. Sometimes it was certain points in practice in time where they would say, and this is kind of still harsh on the race norm, whereas black folks are more able to they can take more pain. So they wouldn't be afforded certain treatment or medicines or different, like they can deal with it a little more, versus the ways they believe that the white person, oh, he's really in pain, we gotta adjust it. So even the pain levels that they said that we have, they didn't view them the same way. So here we are to the race norm with the NFL. So what ends up happening for a long, very, very long time, former NFL athletes was trying to trying to get the NFL to understand that they were going through things, mental issues as far as memory loss and having different spiking headaches after they retired, and it was and it led off into different things where you had different guys problems worsen, and dementia, and sometimes not to say going crazy, but losing their mind. And, we've seen tragic stories and stuff like that. And for a long time, the NFL did not want to say that was, no, we don't know. That's not us. What's going on in this field won't lead to that. So then, you've seen the battles of where they was trying to put it with CTE, because now CTE, the thing with CTE, you had to wait till a person was dead to actually, check the brain. They haven't really came up with a way that you can really check CTE while a person is living. So what ends up happening is, the NFL fought hard against it, and then you had different doctors on both sides saying, one saying that they're not related, and on the other side saying they're related. So I forget the name of the Will Smith movie, but somebody can let me know in the comments and who the actual doctor, what his name was. But they actually had a whole movie with it, and eventually the NFL conceded. And, and then did like a little payout, I believe. And then they had an agreement placed into the one, I think it was one of the collective bargainers back like almost like maybe 10 years ago, about 10 years ago, where they end up doing a payout, right? So boom, we admitted it, and we're sorry, and we're going to reconcile. We're going to make sure that we're going to reconcile with our former players, so therefore they're not felt left alone. We're going to bring them back in the fold as far as under the money that they need, as far as going towards their treatments, and us trying to help out, cover tail. So they started doing payouts. For these former NFL players, that, not, all of them are rich, and their medical situation aren't all the same. So they started doing payouts, and it looked good, and then you had moments of, as this time's going and we start, NFL start going into, social justice, and we fighting for, after the Kaepernick situation went down, and then all of a sudden they 360'd, and because they never really turned around, came back and said, we're for the BLM and social justice and social inequality. We're going to fight against it, and and they do all their different little things and whatnot. So you have something that covers up something that's, hidden. So all the movements and things of that nature kind of covered up something that was going on in the background, different situation, same circumstance, right? So what ends up happening is when they do these tests for former NFL players, that's experiencing, cognitive issues now, that's related to the game of football, they test them differently. They test the black guys to the white guys differently. So the going into with the race norm, and what I didn't mention previously, is that the thought process is that the black man already has a lower cognitive skill set already. Like we're lesser than, right? So what ends up happening when they take these tests, and so you can say the black man and the white man both apply for their thing at the same time. Let me say the former NFL black player, former NFL white player, they both go and they need to see the doctor because they're experiencing the same symptoms. So what ends up happening is, whereas say they're checking for the brain activity declining, so they go and they check the white athlete, the former NFL player that's white. They look and they say, and they, for however their numbers go, so say, and they watch it and they look and they say, you can see that your brain, your brain declined about 4%. Man, yeah. It's tough, So they go with that and they like, okay, so yeah, you need to get, we got to pay you out for 4% because Then they turn around and then they'll say for the black guy, and he'll test out at 4%. And they're like, wow, okay, your brain activity shows a decline of 4%. However, you didn't have any, you wasn't that high already. So, whereas the white guy dropped from 100 to 96, let's just say that you were, we believe that you were at 97 already. So, it's not too much of a drop off. So you're really not messed up. You know what I'm saying? So that's what they're saying. So it's like, wait a minute, I tested the same way. Yeah, y'all both had the same test results. However, because, you have a lower cognitive skill set already, you didn't drop off that much. You only lost, point something percent. You're good, really. Like, no, we lost the same amount. No, you're lower. So using those numbers as small numbers, what ends up happening is the black players, so now they're only getting paid out at 1% versus the 4%. And that's what's going on. It's been going on like that. And it came to light, I would say over the past 4 months or so, to my knowledge. But hearing now, the lawsuits are kicking in now. So the lawsuits are now starting to kick in because more athletes are coming out, speaking on it, from both sides. It's not like, I haven't seen circumstances like former white players was just, hiding it and saying like, yeah, they told me they do this. So it's all groups of former players speaking out on it. Of course, at the forefront, we're going to have the former black athletes because they were the ones that was mistreated. It wasn't treated fairly when it came to this. So here you have the NFL still practicing tactics that technically instituted by the government and outlawed by the government. So, technically they're doing something that's illegal. It's been outlawed, so technically it's illegal. However, how they have it written in their rules, it's something that can be done, but it's not required. But they have where, because doctors talk, they have a community, doctors talk, and doctors saying that, yeah, they say that you don't have to do it. But it seems like every time when we don't do it, they got 1,001 questions when we don't run that test, when we don't practice race norming, when we, test out our former black athletes, if we don't do it, then there's so many questions in there and they're fighting and they're, well, hold on, you need to check it again, or you need to double back and you need to experience. No, we got to come back and that can't be right. Well, why? And it was more so of a unspoken rule to where they felt that they had to do it in order for them not to be pressed by the NFL. So you view it as they're protecting their money, their pockets. That's big money, being able to, work for the NFL as a doctor. And so, they don't want to be, ostracized. They don't want to be pushed out like, Dr. Smith he constantly don't want to do it. We don't need him. We can go find another doctor, So I get it why, it was something that they end up doing more so just to save themselves. I guess the good thing is that they did speak about it and someone finally came out and spoke out about it or at least informed former, players about that particular practice, what was going on. So, needless to say, the lawsuits are rolling. The NFL, of course, is backpedaling and denying that we do not practice race norming, nor do we either encourage or insinuate that a doctor needs to use that tactic. So, here it is, NFL just can't keep the hands clean because it's a lot of dirty money out there anyway. So of course not. It is what it is, The NFL has always had, how would you say, multiple dirty secrets that are based in race, equality, it would be irresponsible of me to just go ahead and say that every owner is probably a racist, right? That would be irresponsible because I can't factually prove that, and that doesn't even fall into the things I think I know. But over the history of the NFL, especially coming into within the last 40 years or so, it's there. It's there. It's like who you want to pick and say they are, or that person isn't. I'll leave that to those who experience close relations with said people, or got information of said owner, that made this comment or that did this, and that's all cool. But it makes sense as we're getting to where we at, especially getting into this whole with this race norming lawsuit. Over time, the NFL has became, what is, I believe they say 70 something percent, 75% black athletes. So when you think about that, like that's the majority of the league. That's everybody. So, and it's been that way for a while. So which makes sense to why the race norming practice was implemented. The NFL, other major league sports kind of have this thing, we paying you all this money, you should be quiet, or you need to come, you need to play, or you need to do X, Y, Z, or, because we give you all this money. And then once it's over, we already gave you all the money. And, unless, you can parlay your, retirement into, other jobs, coaching and things of that nature, you pretty much just out there. We'll call on you if we need you, but how often are we going to need you? Maybe to come out and speak at a Hall of Fame speech or something like that, whatever. But it makes sense to them when you think about for the payouts. With you having more black athletes in your league, when you have to pay out, so if you're saying, if we just did everybody 4% and treat everybody equal 4%, that's a money thing. That's too much money. However, we know we have a smaller amount of white men, so we can do that 4% for 30%. But we can't do that 4% for 100%. So, we can do the 4% for the 30, and we can do the 1% for them, and we all get, everybody getting paid though. Everybody getting paid. They getting paid. We sorry. Yes. The head trauma is a part of this league, and it's all the stuff is making sense, and we got it. So this is what we're gonna do to make sure that we help them going forward, and not giving people the numbers. So all you get is NFL paying former athletes, who suffer from, head trauma and other and dementia and other type of forms of illnesses from the game, as far as the head trauma. So they give them that. That's that. It's like, that makes sense. That sounds very NFL-ish right there. For that's what kind of brings that whole the sideways split tongue talk that some folks have when they talk about it. Man, they athletes, they getting all that money, they need to go ahead and shut up and play, or they need to do this, and it's like they're in a deep game, bigger than just as big or maybe bigger than the actual game they play on the field. The game they play on the field, that comes natural to them. That's second nature. They know how to run. They know how to catch. They know how to tackle, throw, and what have you. But those little innuendos and nuances and stuff that goes on for them they have to deal with, it makes sense because in the end, they are men. They are human beings. And, professional sports kind of have, a history of, treating athletes as less than human, based upon the fact that I've given you millions of dollars so I can treat you, I'm paying you so I can treat you the way I want to treat you. So when they look at, to where they got the people warped up, their minds warped to where they're thinking, he signed a contract, so he need to abide by it. Okay, I signed a contract, you should abide by it. Why are you getting rid of me? We just want to go a different direction. What did I do? We just want to go a different direction. So if I'm sitting here and I'm like, well, you know what? I want to go a different direction. Oh, no. You got to abide by the contract. It's NFL. It's just what they are. It's how they do, It's just been, it's crazy. And I think about like when you have situations like this and with the Colin Kaepernick situation and then, with all the different issues that we're facing today in the world, social justice and whatnot. It's kind of hard to think like that, like boycotting would really work. And I say that because a lot of people bring it up. They be like, why is y'all still watching the NFL? And, you should boycott it and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, okay, I've never practiced boycotting anything like, large scale. I mean, hell, there's places I just don't go to no more. Like, I'm never going there again. So, I mean, I'm boycotting it, I guess. Just not picket sign outside of it. I'm just not going in there. So the same thing for those who, I'm assuming, want to stop watching football because NFL has, or stop watching the NFL because the NFL has, a lot of dark, dirty practices that they do, and some evil spirits in there. Not all, there's some in there. I don't, like I said, I'm not gonna play with the number of how many, but it is what it is. But I don't know. I mean, I can't really imagine it, because I watch it just as entertainment. I don't watch it for the executives. I don't watch it for Mr. Goodell. I don't watch it for none of the owners. I don't watch it for none of them. I watch it for the game on the field, which makes it easier for me to say what I feel about those people that I just after mentioned, the commissioner, the league, the coaches, well, more so not the coaches, but the owners and things of that nature. If they do something wrong, I'm going to speak on what they did wrong. Whatever they're doing, I'm going to speak on it, or address it or not like that. And that is that. But, I don't see it being something like necessarily that I am for, because I don't think just stopping watching something, I don't see it helping whatever cause we're trying to help. I mean, I used to think like back in the day, like before all of this stuff, with the social media and all these things of that nature, it used to be people that I used to meet and they would say like, all I watch is, amateur football, college football, high school, I don't watch the NFL. And I'd be like, word? Why don't you watch the NFL? And they would have these, like I said, this is before all the stuff that's going on now. So it never was really nothing about, well, the NFL, they are corrupt, or they got this type of unfair practice, or they treat athletes this way, or they do. That was never the why. It typically was always some, I call it dumb type response, like it's not exciting enough, it's not, they don't play hard enough, or it's not that it's not pure anymore. They'll say things like that. The athletes are divas, or hey, once they're paid, they don't play the right way, or they don't even want to do. And it's like, that don't read, And I used to just kind of like, jokingly say, but then in some cases it could be true. But I would just look at it like, so you're telling me you don't want to see, you like the sport of football, but you don't want to see it played at the highest level with the highest skill set. Okay. That don't read. So I gave it some thoughts, and I used to think like, maybe you just like watching boys play, I mean, and no shot to people who are for whatever, as far as no shots to males liking males, but I will always have, problems with adults loving on kids. So, that's all I could think about. It was like, they want to see, and then the college is the last space of him being a boy, because that's your space where you transition from boys to men. You go to college and you still technically have boyish ways because you're going to college, you're 17, you're 18, 19, still trying to figure yourself out, and you're in that transitional point. So maybe that's why they stop at the college, because once you're in the NFL, you got to be a man. But in all seriousness, though, I can never really think of a reason to, like, if you really love football, to that you're gonna actually boycott watching the football game. There's so many different things that you can do from it. Like, I mean, I believe that the whole, we're not in the time space where they used to have the blackouts, so you can always watch a game. You don't have to go to the stadium or whatever. But then sometimes people think, well, if you don't go to the stadium, then you're affecting the people who work at the stadium, their jobs, and this and the third. So the only thing I can think of, the people that's going to stop watching is the people that don't really care for it in the first place. But those who really already like football will continue to watch it, no matter what all comes up about these things, So where we at right now, it's just kind of funny. It makes the NFL look kind of, look like the evil entity that, people say they are sometimes, while they was, Black Lives Matter and social justice and pushing this like behind closed doors. We see how much they really thought that the Black lives really matter. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Like I said before, if you like what you see, make sure you subscribe. Hit the like button. Hit the don't like button. But I definitely would like to know why you don't like it as well. So comment either way. Tell me what you don't like about my video. Tell me what you don't like about me. Am I ugly? Whatever, it don't matter. Just tell me. Go ahead. Humble City Real. Thank y'all for watching. Holla at y'all later.